The Wyman got me my Diet Coke. We're good to go. Go.
Pretty good, sir. Pretty fair. Pretty fair. I'm ready. Georgia won, I'm happy. Georgia won, I'm happy. I'm happy. I am. And I ain't been there.
Alexander, do we
I got
have
family roots in Georgia.
a minutes?
I got
One of the minutes?
documentation. Yeah.
You got a copy?
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
Cousin
In case
wanted to
anybody
start
asks
running
about
back for
it,
Georgia.
I should have printed it up.
Ooh.
Oh, well, yeah, I didn't see him. Okay, good. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is he from up here?
Good evening, and welcome to the December 12th meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals for the City of North Myrtle Beach. If you want to go ahead and call this meeting to order, and if, Ms. Smith, if we can get a roll call, please.
Please rise and raise your right hand if you're planning on speaking tonight. Do you solemnly state, under penalty of perjury, that the evidence you shall give in this matter shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay, you may sit down.
Great, thank you. And if we go ahead and take the roll call, please.
Chairman William McGonigal,
Here?
Mendo Bell,
Here.
Cynthia Lover,
Here.
Roger Quinn,
Here.
Joe Reeves,
Here.
Andy Thomas,
Here.
Wyman Wise.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Great, thank you. If you get an opportunity, how about reviewing last month's meeting, minutes, last Thursday, November 14th, 2024 minutes? And after reviewing them, if we can get a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve the minutes from the November 14th meeting.
All right, thank you, Mr. Reeves. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. None opposed? And we'll move on to the next item on the agenda with the city. Mr. Caldwell? Any communications?
No, sir.
Great,
No communications.
Great, thank you. All right, let's go ahead and get our, get this meeting started. We've got item number 1 on the agenda. We've got variance V29-24. We have an application by Ann Walters for a variance of the side yard setback requirements for a cargo lift at 338 46th Avenue North, zone single family, low density in the R1 district. Is someone here for, to represent Ms. Walters on this item on the agenda? Okay. Ms. Caldwell, how would you like to, I think you knew she
I would
wasn't
like
going
you
to
to
make it.
just keep it on the agenda for at least another month in hopes that they will attend.
Okay, great,
Thank you.
If we can get a motion to postpone variance V29-24?
I will make a motion, to postpone variance V-29-24
Great.
till next month.
I
Thank
would like to, this is how many times? 3 times this woman hadn't shown up?
Third time.
Three probably, I think.
Okay. I'd like you to, if you don't mind, add to your motion that if she doesn't show up this time, it gets stricken from the roster. Well, she's had 3 chances to come in here.
I think this is her second.
No, it's the third.
You sure?
Yes, sir.
Third meeting. Yes, third meeting.
And I thought we said that last time, that we were going to strike it the next
Be the
time if
third
she didn't
meeting.
show up
It's
today,
been
but
postponed
it's not in
twice.
the
This is
minutes.
third
Yeah.
meeting. It's being postponed again.
Christmas.
What about September, October, November? I mean, you know, or October. Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas.
Yeah,
all of those.
I would like to amend that with, or include, us, well, we still have to vote on that.
Here we go.
Yeah, we should have to vote next month. If I had something saying that we're gonna remove it from the agenda, next month, we're still gonna have to vote on it. It won't automatically just remove, will it?
Just so this, I think probably maybe staff can let her know that, hey, you're going to need to catch this next one.
Because you have an outstanding ticket right?
We
That's
do,
what-
the lift was built without a permit, and it's in the required side yard.
Yeah, so she's just avoiding this, as far as I'm
Possibly, I
concerned.
think she told me there was some family health issues out of state.
But yet she managed to get a contractor to build her an illegal lift. She contacted somebody to come in, you know, so.
Yeah.
We in the discussions
Yes,
section?
yes, we are.
I had a question as well, too. I've gone over and looked at it. And I was in a predicament because I wanted to know through the discovery process, had there been a building permit issued for this to begin with?
No, that's what, they just addressed that.
We- That's definite. Well, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah,
it's
right,
in
you're
the
thinking
record.
about that, right? It is for the record.
But it wasn't issued.
You can keep it the way you want, or you can amend it, and see if we get a second. Yes, sir, Mr. Farmer.
Applied for a permit, but it was not
After the
approved
fact.
because it was done after the fact and it encroaches, it doesn't meet setbacks, so
Okay,
that's where we're at. They did apply after it was installed.
after it was installed. Good deal. Thank you for
It's not
clarifying that.
approved.
Good. Mr. Thomas, would you like to, do you want to amend, or do you want to stay with the same amendment? Whatever you want to do, we can do.
Whatever you want to do.
I'll stay with what I got.
Okay, do we have a second?
I second.
We got a second, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Me,
Great, thank you, everybody. All right, let's move to the next item on the agenda. We've got item number 2, we've got variance 37-24. We have an application by Ms. Stephanie Carroll for a variance of the front and side yard setback requirements at 704 Windy Hill Road, zone single-family, low-density, in the low-density residential in the R1 district. Ms. Carroll? Hello.
Good evening.
Hello.
Thank you for taking time to hear my appeal.
If you would,
request.
just introduce yourself for the record.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm Stephanie Carroll, and I live at 704 Windy Hill Road. I have some paperwork with some sketches and drawings, if you'd like to hand those out. May I approach to hand them out, or give them to you? Okay. I mean, I have a packet for everyone, if that would be easier for them to.
It needs to be seen so that the speakers watching.
I can have a copy I can show here if they, however y'all want to do
Yeah,
it.
if you've got, I think we have,
You have some that I
yeah, we have some of the
submitted.
pictures, and if you got
Right,
anything
I
additional,
yeah, I have a little bit of additional
Yeah.
stuff.
bring her up here, and
Okay.
we'll pass it, if you hand it to Mr. Quinn, and he'll pass it down. Thank you.
can I just ask you one thing before you start?
Yes, ma'am?
When I'm looking at your package, what amount of a variance are you asking for? How big is the porch you want to build, or the roof?
On the front, I'd like to come out with the porch 8 feet, and then plus the steps. So total, it would be 13 with the steps coming off the front. So just to give you a little background of the property, my great-grandfather purchased the property in 1947, before Windy Hill was even incorporated or existed, and then it was later passed on to my grandparents in 1965. The home that currently sits on the property was built in 1959, so that was before the area became part of Windy Hill and before the setbacks were established. So the home was already existing when the setbacks were created. And currently, the front door is not under cover, so I'm having a lot of issues with water damage. And so what I would like to do is, the house currently has a gable on the right-hand side if you're facing the home, I would like to remove that and basically shift the gable over to the center above the door and the portrait window, and then extend out with a porch to help cover the front door and eliminate some of the water damage. There's also a little AutoCAD drawing that I did on the first page, of course, is the survey, and you can see what's marked in red. In the front would be the existing, what's marked in red would be how the porch would extend, and then I'm also asking for a side setback to possibly do an extension on the back, but we'll just kind of go one at a time if that's okay with y'all. So on the next few pages is just some examples of water damage that I have. You can kind of, just to give you a picture of what I'm dealing with. This water damage has been repaired multiple times, and it's occurring over and over. So what we're thinking I'm hoping to mitigate that by putting the porch under cover. So the next drawing is basically a little more detailed, showing what's in blue. What's in red is the existing with the window, and then the small there now. What's in blue would be the footprint of the new porch. And one of the challenges that I have is the road has a 75-foot right-of-way. Most other roads that are set up the same way that my road is set up only have a 50-foot right-of-way. I'm guessing when Windy Hill was first incorporated, they were thinking that road may potentially be a main thoroughfare, similar to Main Street in North Myrtle Beach, but that didn't really come to fruition. And so that's the reason for the request for the front variance. And you can see, based on the distances, even that drawing shows the distance. So even with my porch expanding out 13 feet from home, I'm still nowhere near the road. There's still plenty of front yard. There's plenty of room if they were to come back and widen the road or something like that. There's still plenty of room without impeding on any of that. And the houses around me, they all have covered porches, and several houses on that street have a similar layout with the covered porch. So I believe it would kind of stick with the character and aesthetics of the neighborhood. So with the side variance, or does anybody have any questions? So, no, go ahead. With the side variance, what I'd like to issue in the back where the back door is not under cover. I guess that wasn't common back when these older houses were built. And so I'm having issues where the concrete's really close to the back door and it's causing water damage at the back door as well. So what I would like to do is do an expansion off the back, but currently the side setback would be 10 feet and my house is 9.8 feet. So it's right on the line. So what I'd like to do is, with that addition, it would put me right in line. I wouldn't go into the setback anymore. I would just basically extend along the 9.8, and then that way I could keep the same roof and the same exterior wall, and it wouldn't look, if I shift the wall over, it's gonna look a little funny in the back. So some of the hardships that I'm having is the water damage and by my family way before any setbacks or, even North Myrtle Beach was incorporated as a city and before this property was part of North Myrtle Beach. I have an odd-shaped lot at the back. It's kind of a triangle, and so with those setbacks, it really limits what I could do. And then another challenge is the extremely large right-of-way of that road. And then there's also some photographs in your porches similar to what I'm looking at. I haven't really picked anything. I just found some examples of what it could look like.
So if I'm hearing you right, you want an 8-foot variance on the front and a 4-inch variance on the side?
On the side, it would be, on the side, the overhang counts in the variance, correct? So it would actually be 1.2 feet into the side variance. And if you count the steps in the front, it would end up being a total of, the porch itself would be 8, and then the steps are a foot apiece, and it would be 5 steps, so that would be 13 into the variance on the front. It would be 8 feet from the house, and then the porch, the gable would be, if we take the size of the existing gable, the gable would be about 18 feet wide. So then the porch would be 18 feet wide, 8 feet deep, plus the steps would be 13 feet deep total. And there's still 40-plus feet from the front of my step for right-of-way or any of that.
So on your CAD drawing, you're showing 9.3 feet.
That would be to the, yeah, that would be to the property line, and then it's another 38.6 feet to, no, I'm sorry. 9.3 is from the front of the step to the property line, but then it's 38.6 from the front of the step to the edge of the road, or the sidewalk, I'm sorry. And the house is, it doesn't sit road, it's kind of at a little bit of an angle. So on one end, I'm 21.3 from the property line, and on the other end, the house, because of the way it's not quite straight, I end up being like 19 because it's at an angle. But
If your variance were to be granted, would it require you to remove any trees?
no, ma'am. There is a tree in the backyard that could potentially be in the way, but it's smaller than your tree requirements, and I love the trees, so I'll definitely work around it. It may have to have some branches trimmed if it was to be like a carport or something like that. Yeah, I have a huge oak tree in the back that I absolutely love, so I don't do everything to avoid messing with the trees.
Okay, any more questions?
Just, you can, just succinctly say, what is your hardship?
My hardship is the fact that it's an odd-shaped lot, and the house was put on the property prior to any setbacks being created. There were no setbacks because it was just county property, or it was different setbacks in 1959 when the house was built. A hardship would be the water damage that we've repaired multiple times, and we keep having the same issue come up over and over. And then with the large road right-of-way, pretty much ended up taking half of the front yard is pretty much unusable without a variance.
All right, well, thank you. Give us a second. We're going to hear from the city.
Okay.
And we'll be back to you.
Petitioner Stephanie Carroll has submitted an application for a variance of front and side yard setback for additional construction at 704 Windy Hill Road, Zone R1, single-family, low-density residential R1 district. Ms. Carroll wants to cover her front entry with a covered porch. However, the existing steps are already encroaching into the required front setback. Ms. Carroll would also like to extend an addition on the side of the home, which already encroaches into the required side yard. Ms. Carroll would like to keep the existing wall and overhangs and extend them back. Staff recommends that the board review the variance application and hear the evidence presented at the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Caldwell.
You're welcome.
Any questions for the city?
So, well, I mean, looking at this plot plan, this house is already over the setback, right? So, I mean, it's already 6 feet on the outside of the setback as it is, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So
but
you
it
would
was
have taken,
built prior to the setbacks being put in place?
Yes. I mean, looking at everything,
What do you call that?
Existing grandfathered setback.
Okay. Are there any plans, this is probably way out there, are there any plans to widen that road that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of, but that
Okay.
doesn't mean that there aren't.
Right.
So I just want to verify, she's on the front of the property, she's really looking at a 15.7-foot set variance, right? Off the setback. Because she'll only have 9.7 feet from her lot line, correct? or 9.4 or something like that.
Yeah, I can pull that drawing. I don't have the numbers memorized, but.
9.3, yeah,
9.3.
so it's 15.7.
And if it would work better for the city, you know, we have looked at entertaining ideas of taking the steps from the front and moving them over to the side. I have a CAD drawing that shows how that would look, and then that way it would only encroach, or the porch would only come out 8 feet. And then the steps would be on the little stepping stone path over to the driveway. Now the porch is pretty much unusable, and
So you said it's a foot per step, right? 1 foot per step
I'm
roughly?
not a contractor, but from what I've read and everybody I've talked, it's generally a foot. The rise and run is generally a foot per step. Yes, sir. I mean, I would prefer, I think it would look better with the steps in the front. It would make everything symmetrical, but, you know, if that's a challenge, then maybe we could work on the steps on the side. Yes, sir?
You could bring the CAD drawing with you?
With the steps on the side? Yes, sir.
Basically, anything you were to put on the front of the house would need a variance. It's already over the lines, variance. It's a 4-foot porch, it'd still need one. Yeah.
If the steps are the issue.
That's what she said, 1.2 feet, yeah.
And I've also got some information from your City of North Myrtle Beach Street Planning Manual that shows layouts. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with that, but it shows layouts where roads very similar to mine only have a 50-foot right-of-way. I think in the early 40s, they were expecting that road to be much bigger than it ended up being. It's pretty much just a residential road.
And with the setbacks now, Ben, it's supposed to be 25 off the front,
That's correct.
side is 10.
Yes, sir.
But it's just the overhang that would be in the
Yes,
side yard, right?
the-
No building, just the overhang?
Well, if I extend the wall, and like I said, everything's at an angle, so if I extend the wall, then it would be along the line of the 9.8 versus the 10, so it would be 0.2 feet in, and then the overhang would be an additional foot, because the overhangs count on the side setback, but not in the front.
So that's a 1.2 foot variance on the side?
If you're counting the
Okay.
overhang, yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay. We gotta count that.
All right, well, give us a minute. We're going to hear from the city, and we'll be back to you.
Okay.
Great, thanks.
Do I just stay right here or sit down?
Yeah, you
or-
can sit down, take it, yep.
Already did.
Oh, you already did. All right, where to go from there? Any thoughts, Mr. Caldwell? Mr. Farmer?
Those are the facts.
Pre-existing, it was built 1950-something. They bought the lot in 1940, then it was rezoned and lot layouts were done. The house was built before that all came into play.
Right.
I mean, I don't think it's their fault.
No, it's not a self-imposed hardship.
Right.
They got, she's still almost 30 feet from the road to the property line. So, I mean, she has a case. I mean, I feel like yeah.
There's
How
an
about the
odd-shaped
back?
lot, too, in the back.
Yeah, she got odd-shaped lot. She's trying to preserve the trees on the back of the property. I mean,
You prepared to make a motion?
I just want to make sure that I got my numbers right, though, with the board. If I make this
Well,
mo,
I guess what we need to decide too, if you're gonna grant the variance, are we gonna allow her to make the steps from the front, or we need to put from the side?
if we do the front, it's,
Put the steps to the side, and there's a compromise there.
okay. So if it's to the side, then it's 11 foot 7 inches, right? For the variance, is that right? I just want to,
That sounds right.
okay.
She had
That
said
seems-
if it was off the front steps earlier, it was a 13-foot variance, is that right?
It's actually 15.7.
15.7?
Yeah, 15 foot 7 inches off the front. And if if it's off the side, it's 11 foot 7 inches.
Those numbers vary a little bit because the house is not perfectly level with the road. It's kind of skewed a little bit. So if you measure over here and you measure over here, it's gonna be slightly different.
Okay.
Because of the way
I
it's
want the
skewed.
steps on, y'all want the steps on the side?
I like that.
You like that as a compromise? Okay.
Fine either way.
You just want to get, instead of like making 11.7, you think like a 12 or 12.5 foot variance is a way to go over that because of her having that angle?
You could also condition your approval that the additional porch can come out 8 foot. And so whatever that number is, it would change because of the skewing of the house, but you could condition the distance that the porch can come out.
Eight plus the overhang,
Yeah.
if there is an overhang.
Is there an overhang in the front?
There would be just a little
Little
bit.
bit.
I mean,
Probably the same as the sides, I would think.
right, no more than a foot. Well,
It doesn't even, it doesn't
the
count the.
front doesn't get it's an overhang on the sides of the gable. So if the porch is 18 feet wide, then the overhang would make it 20 as far as going across. But I'm not sure if the variance is for a certain width, is that the whole length of the property or is it just for the porch? I'm just trying to,
Yeah, it's gonna be for the porch.
right.
So
I mean, if we want to clarify that, right? So,
The overhangs don't count in the front when, well, they actually are allowed to go up to 3 foot in, or up to 2 foot into the front and rear
So we
of
can do
the
the 8 foot.
required setback. So if your house is right at, say, 25, you could still have a 2 foot overhang.
we want to do an 8-foot porch.
So we do the 8 foot porch and still be okay?
Good deal.
Okay.
And what, on the side setback, it makes sense to be square with a house. We're talking about a couple inches with the overhang.
I don't have an issue with the 1 foot, 2 inch.
But you have, if you're gonna say an 8-foot porch, do you have to say something about the steps?
Yeah,
You could condition that the steps be on the side as well.
Now, can I ask a question? If it's 8 foot and the porch is skewed, do we go
it's an 8-foot porch. You're going to be 8 foot no matter.
8 foot from the front of the house? And even if it's skewed, it won't, if those few inches won't matter, just stay 8 foot
If
from
they
the house?
condition it being 8, you can put an 8-foot porch on.
Okay.
Good deal.
We can, Mr. Chairman, we could include this with our
Sounds good.
information.
All right, Mr. Bell.
Here we go. Mr. Chairman, I move that the board grant variance V 37-24 because the applicant has demonstrated unnecessary hardship. Specifically, there are extraordinary exceptional conditions pertaining to this particular piece of property, which go to the fact that this property was purchased prior to being annexed into the city and having new zoning restrictions put onto this particular piece of property and the property being built prior to all this, and also the regular shape condition of the lot. These conditions do generally apply to the other properties in the vicinity because of these conditions, application of the ordinance, so this particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. The authorization of the variance would not be a substantial detriment to adjacent properties, to the public good, and the character of the district would not be harmed by granting of the variance. The conditions that we'd like to put on this variance is that the porch can only come off 8 feet from the front of the property. The steps must be placed on the side of the porch. And we'd also like to grant the variance to the right side. It's the right side of the property, right?
If you're facing the house, yes, sir.
The
it's
right
on
side of the
right
property for 1 foot, 2 inches for the additional construction.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Mr. Quinn?
Question I had, do we have any concern about the trees that came up in the discussion? No concern.
Yep.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Quinn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Great, thank you. All right, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. We've got item number 3. We have variance 38-24, an application by Sarah Hamlin for a variance to increase the maximum parking spaces allowed for a proposed development from 26 to 44 spaces at 4350 Highway 17 South, zoned highway commercial in the 8C district. And if you come up, if you can introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Good evening, Sarah Hamblin with Foresight Group.
Good evening, Daniel Ben Israel, Real Estate Development Manager with Parker's Kitchen.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. We're here tonight pursuant to the Code of Ordinances of the City of North Myrtle Beach to request a variance to allow a parking increase on our location from 26 spaces to 44 spaces. The request for the variance is due to the geography, is due to conditions related to the geography and encumbrances affecting the property. This property is encumbered by a shared parking and access easement with the adjacent property, which is currently under development to accommodate retail uses to include a Dairy Queen and a Dunkin' Donuts. The covenant or the easement that encumbers this property allows the adjacent property and its patrons to access our parking aisles, drive aisles, in order to get back out to Barefoot Resort Landing Road. We're asking for this variance to allow for adequate parking for our location, for our patrons, and the patrons of those adjacent uses. It's conceivable that during the peak hours of uses for our location and those adjacent uses, that the traffic generation and parking demand will be such that having the additional parking will serve to minimize the adverse impacts of traffic flow in the area and the impacts to Highway 17 and the adjacent roadways. We do have, we've submitted in our package a copy of our site plan, the landscaping plan, and a site adapt rendering to give you an idea of how the site will function and how it will appear once it's developed. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. We'd like to point out also, really quickly, we have, is this it? Is this it? There was one discrepancy that I'd like to call. Is in the application, we've asked for a parking increase to 44 spaces, but the site plan that you have in front of you reflects parking. If you were to count the spaces, it's 41. The reason for the request of 44 is because in our planning stage, we've been working through various site plan iterations, and we've come up with a site plan layout that actually allows us to fit 44 spaces on the site. And so that's a deviation from what I think the site plan that you have. Is that correct?
So the landscape plan and the renderings and the site plan that were submitted show that, if you were to count, show 41 spaces, but the one that we're displaying here is the updated one that shows 44.
And that's what we requested in the
Yes.
application.
Okay, good deal, thank you. Any questions for the applicants?
Me. How much, where it's located now, I know there's a large parking lot. How much more pavement are you going to add? What would be the increase in square footage of the pavement that's already there? Looking at runoff, because that's going to go downhill towards Alligator Adventure into that swash.
That's a great question. So I'm showing here the landscape plan. I don't unfortunately have the exact acre-to-acre calculation for you, but you will see we are proposing a lot more landscaped islands with plantings there, improving the landscaping around the perimeter, as well as some of the areas around the.
If I'm really
Is
concerned with
it
the
safe-
increase in pavement.
Is it safe to say that there's a net reduction?
A reduction, that's what I was getting at, is it's currently completely paved, and so we're adding some landscaped areas that you can see
Not going to
here.
add, you're not going to pave anything
Not
more
pave
that's
more.
already paved.
Correct.
The pavement's there for Perkins and that, the other parking lot, you're not going to make it more behind it there towards what used to be the par three. You're not going to, where I see the loading zone, that's already paved?
Yes.
This one on your map there, on your picture there?
Just to clarify, the existing pavement will be demolished,
Okay,
and we will put in new asphalt for
Okay.
our paving. but the end result will be a net reduction in the amount of impervious area on the site.
Okay.
And just so we're clear, I'm sorry, is this where the Prestons is now, or is that where, okay.
Yeah. So is there any requirement by this, oh, I guess I'll ask the city about the drainage, what they
stormwater.
require for runoff?
Yes, ma'am. And actually, the city of North Myrtle Beach does not give credit for redevelopments, so we actually would treat this as if it were currently a green space. So we will have to do underground detention to from our site. So it'll be a much improved situation compared to what it is today.
Would you be open to, if we were to consider your variance, would you be open to making some of the parking places pervious?
Absolutely.
And I would also point out on your, on your indicating that to sharing the parking with your neighbors, with the Dunkin' Donuts and what else is gonna be there? I can't remember. Dairy Queen. But they're also entitled to, your customers can also use their parking, correct? If you have a cross-sharing thing?
I think that was more driven on access. Is that correct?
I don't know, I read something in here, they thought the other restaurants would go park in their parking places.
I don't have the actual verbiage in front of me, but we did include it in the packet, so y'all might have it in front of you. But I believe the way it was worded is that the cross-access easement is on this parcel. And it is to all paved areas, including drive aisles, parking areas. It's not just,
It doesn't look like you're sharing, your property, none of the people at the Dairy Queen are gonna be parking at your property. It looks like you're just driving an access to the other property? You providing access to the
we are
Dairy
providing the
Queen?
cross-access from, it's across the entire site, though. It's not like a
Right.
50-foot easement from here to here. It's the entire site.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's an easement conveyed to the adjacent parcel, our parcel and tour. And so it's actually.
The dominant parcel,
I'm sorry?
you're like considered the dominant.
But you guys don't own that.
We're the grantee.
Y'all own the,
And it's to benefit the grantee's property.
but
the
y'all don't,
adjacent property.
y'all don't own that property though.
No, it's under contract.
Okay. But y'all won't be the owners of that property either, right?
We
Y'all,
will.
so y'all will own both pieces of property where the Dairy Queen and the,
No, we will only own the Parker's Kitchen location.
okay.
So
Where is the other parking? Where's the other, I mean, is there another, would you say a Dunkin' Donuts
Yeah,
being
sure.
developed?
If you
That's
got
what
that,
they're digging
there
up
it is right
now
there.
with that big pile of dirt in the parking lot there.
Yeah.
Where the park,
Yeah.
that big pile of dirt that's sitting there now beside the road.
Okay.
See, I'm,
I had a question.
okay.
Weren't building, yeah, I was gonna say, if they weren't building this on the corner, what would be their egress and their egress,
I don't know.
ingress situation?
The easement is existing. It's already been recorded. So it's currently in existence on the Preston's Seafood Restaurant. And whoever purchases this land, whether would continue to exist.
Yeah, it's an easement granted in perpetuity to the successors and assigns of this property that we're purchasing.
Okay.
And it's only to benefit that property. And I guess,
No, I understand. So it was an existing easement then, when you
Yes,
guys, okay.
It is,
Okay.
yes.
Because I'm,
What I wanted to know.
Yeah.
I'm reading like your number 3 paragraph, that how would not granting your variance would unreasonably restrict the use of your property. It says, what y'all put in was, the cross-access and parking easement agreement does not provide any limitations on the amount of parking that can be utilized by the adjacent property and its patrons. Therefore, strict enforcement of the zoning ordinance could result in inadequate amount of parking designated to the parker's convenience use or any use that could seek to utilize the property. So you're saying the Dunkin' Donuts and the Dairy Queen people, your people, customers can't go,
That's correct.
but their customers can park in yours?
That's correct.
Okay.
All right, I think, I'd like to hear from the city, if we get a chance, let's hear from the city, and then we got, because we've been talking about this issue with parking, minimum, maximums, it'd be great to hear the city's perspective. Thank you, give us a second, we're gonna hear from the city. Ms. Crowell?
Petitioner Sarah Hamlin has submitted an application request to provide more parking spaces than what is permitted by the ordinance for a proposed convenience store at 4350 Highway 17 South, zoned Highway Commercial HC District. Section 2343-2A, retail uses less than 10,000 square feet in size will be allowed to exceed the maximum parking, will be able to exceed the minimum required parking by 150% of the requirement. Minimum required for this use is 1 per 300 square foot. The building is 5,175 square foot, requiring 17.25 spaces times 1.5 equals 26. So requesting a variance to increase the maximum parking spaces from 26 to 44. Required minimum parking for retail is based upon the ratio of 1 space for each 300 square foot of building area. Staff recommends that the board review the variance application, hear the evidence presented at the meeting, and review section 2343.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Colwell.
You're welcome.
Ms. Colwell, I wanted to get your, because right now I think that's a lot of discussions going on with the city as far as parking and minimum and maximums. How do we see, to Ms. Lover's comment about the impervious, how will that all apply to this?
We've been proposing an ordinance change that would stop prohibiting the maximum number of spaces on a property, but any space other than the minimum required would have to be pervious.
Okay.
That ordinance has not passed yet.
But if it did pass, then they would have to make, and if
They
it did
wouldn't-
pass and we granted this variance, the extra 18 places would have to be pervious.
If that ordinance had already passed, they wouldn't be here tonight. They would just be providing pervious parking for the ones over the 26.
Okay, so it exempts them from the minimum, basically, parking.
It
It's going
stops
away.
having a maximum allowed.
Okay,
It moves it to anything over the minimum required to be pervious.
have there been any readings on that ordinance yet?
I don't think so.
Are there scheduled to be readings, or is this just
I
something
think
y'all are
we've
kicking around?
advertised to have it
Okay.
on an agenda.
Okay.
The reason why I was asking is because I think we've known that they've been talking about these discussions, whether or not you asked about the impervious, and that's kind of, sounds like hopefully that's the direction they're going, so we get rid of that maximum where it makes sense, and if we want to, if we do think we could grant this variance, and we could set that condition in there. Also, you all have a second? I have a question on the, you've got, it looks like you have two site plans here. You've got two different parking plans. You got this one right here, and then you had another one with no parking here. Is there one that provides, to Ms. Lover's point, do you have the other plan? Do they both provide adequate space, and does this create any better, create a little better? I don't want to minimize what you have because it looks,
So this plan that you're seeing now projected creates the opportunity to put more landscaping on the corner of the property.
Yeah.
Where we had parking. Yeah, we had parking.
there was parking.
Yeah, there was parking over on the left side. We will still be able to maintain a landscape strip along the front and the corner and in the rear as well. This configuration here relocates the parking closer to the building as well. So this would be our preference here.
And I would say this, due to the fact that you've got this access point on the Dairy Queen, you'd rather have the parking on the other side? Because I live back in Barefoot. You come in here and the traffic's pretty good. You don't want people zooming in, so that would be, I like to Ms. Lover's point about impervious and landscaping. I prefer this to push the other vehicles to the backside to minimize that foot traffic.
Sure, yeah, I
So-
agree.
This is what you're asking for right here?
This is it.
This is it, correct.
Does that make sense?
How much of that is that all that pervious parking then?
It's not designated on here, but whichever y'all decide today, X number of spots, we'd probably do, start. Whatever we need to do to meet the.
And would you prefer to have it, is that where you prefer to have your pervious parking? Would be there maybe on the back of the building, or?
Yeah, would be probably on the side. Yeah, there.
Mr. Bell, I'll throw this one, let's give them the flexibility. We're getting a lot of cars off of the corner, we're adding the landscaping. Now they don't want more parking, they want to have sufficient parking, right?
I think, but I also think we want some uniformity too, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
it's only 12, it's 12 parking spots. If they do that side, and the other side, then that's
So you're trying to make it,
Mr. 18, Mr. 18.
gotcha, okay.
That they're looking for the 44. Because they already allowed up to 26, right?
Right.
That's 18 right there on the spot. Yeah, that's 18 pervious spaces, yeah.
Okay, that's good. I think you had,
For the city, question,
Yes.
where does their runoff go?
Well, our Public Works Department, like she mentioned, is treating this like it's a grass field. So when they do that, they has to bring it all up to today's standards. So
I see a drainage pond, I guess is why I'm asking. I thought they had to
Probably
contain it on
underground
their
drainage,
property
probably
somehow.
underground storage.
Yeah, it's underground water storage.
Okay.
This hasn't been passed yet through.
I just really don't want any runoff going into the swash. Anything from the oil, gas, you're gonna have a gas station there, you don't want gas running off of that parking lot going into the swash. There's a lot of wildlife,
You don't want
that would
quality
affect your
requirements.
neighbors.
This is a rendering. This is
Yeah,
yeah, we'll meet those requirements.
Okay.
We'll meet all the water quality requirements.
But seriously, I know you're saying they're gonna meet those requirements. I just wanna make sure that it will all be contained on the property, none of it's gonna go across that road into the swash. Is that how the city requires it?
and ultimately, it will be discharged. Where's it discharging ultimately? Where, is it all infiltrating into the underground detention? And then,
Then where does the underground retention go? I'm just thinking you've got gasoline there. Right now, there's no gasoline there, there's no oil, there's no people dumping stuff out of their car into the parking lot that runs off and pollutes that swash.
so I can answer that question in two ways. One, we still have to do a hydrological analysis for this site. So let's imagine a scenario where we are capturing the water, detaining the water on site and treating it on site, and then ultimately discharging it. We will meet the water quality standards, and we can do that by incorporating a number of proprietary systems to accomplish that. Crystal stream boxes or whatever other equipment we need in order to treat the water. And then once we do the analysis, we can determine whether or not that water can be wholly detained or retained on site. But we haven't gotten that far yet. There are inlet structures adjacent to this property that conveys water and plan north to a pond. So we're going to have to investigate whether or not us tying into those existing structures is feasible or not, but we just haven't gotten there yet.
Any other questions?
For the city, because I don't remember this, when they were here for their last proposal, was it considered retail, or were they presenting that proposal where they wanted more parking? Was that for a convenience
There
store?
was discussion of whether is it retail or is it restaurant or some combination of the two. Well, it's a convenience store in my mind that has a kitchen, so we could consider it retail.
This is, was the other one considered retail?
Yes, ma'am.
They were both present, both of
Yes.
them, okay.
We argued, you could easily.
I know, but I can't remember what it was, just
Yeah.
which way we decided it
Well,
was,
the
or,
city,
And you could be both, right?
it could, but they only presented as one.
Yeah.
They have to pick and choose
So
some
one
type,
of
right?
The city chooses.
Yeah, the city.
Ben chooses.
City
Yeah, Ben
chooses,
chooses, yeah.
okay.
Ben chooses, yeah.
And that's why I think that's why we're looking at the zoning to try to make it more tailored to specific ones, right? Convenience store is convenience store.
Yes, sir.
But can't we get some degree of a commitment about the proprietary system to protect the environment?
They've got, they're,
And our
That's Army Corps of Engineer.
yeah,
That-
they're
That's
not
like
gonna,
way
you're
above
not
our
gonna,
head.
yeah,
That's-
they're not gonna let
yeah.
you, they're not letting you
no,
drop gasoline
no.
and pour it all over the place.
No, that's, yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's,
So,
You say that.
no, they're not, they don't, they
Well,
gotta,
there
and they
shouldn't be
gotta,
a problem with me putting that in a variance.
Of course,
that
yeah.
Their property,
No, you
no
put-
matter what the Corps of Engineers says, they have to do it to whatever standard will mean they will not have any petroleum runoff into that swash of any kind.
Yeah.
Or it's not gonna go out into the groundwater and then wash down into the swash, under the
last
road.
line,
yeah, that's where, I'm with Andy on that. We're crossing the line doing that.
Yeah, that's where that-
Because the Army Corps of Engineers, when you develop, they really,
They
give
manage.
example, when you have runoff and it goes into any wetlands or anything of that nature, you have to do, there's so much that you have to do to scrub
Not
that
even
water.
touching that property, there's a road in beside that. I don't know that's gonna be considered. I mean, there's a road between the two properties.
What's that?
Barefoot Resort Bridge Road is there between
It's how-
the
it's-
Perkins and
But
the,
it's like they said, how they retain the water with underground capture and all the other stuff. There's just a number of factors that go into play when they design that water runoff and the hydro plant that they talked about. It's pretty complex. It's not simple. And to install stuff like that is millions and millions and millions
good,
of
it
dollars.
should be millions and
Well, it
millions
is,
and millions.
it is, trust me, I just paid for it. Yeah.
It should be.
Yeah, so
It should
I
be.
get it, yeah.
Mr.
So
Chairman,
it's not as simple.
All I
yeah,
was
yeah.
asking for was a statement of intent, of good spirit intent for the that they would investigate a proprietary system to protect that environment in that area. I wasn't saying they had to, I was asking if we could
Sure.
put a commitment in there.
I think that's fair, absolutely, yeah.
All right.
Ready to make that?
Go ahead, you
No,
make the
sir.
better
No.
proposals.
I just wanted to question also why you think you're gonna need more parking. I mean, this is different than the place that was out there, the other one you came here for, because there's no restaurants out there. You've got this, putting it beside Barefoot Landing, which has got all kinds of restaurants, across the street from Starbucks, which is a restaurant, down the street from Cracker Barrel and Hamburger Joe's, which are restaurants. I don't know that you're gonna have that many people sitting there eating food. They're gonna eat at the gas station when they can go to any number of nice resort restaurants. So I'm not sure that you actually need the extra parking place. Why you think that?
You tried our food?
And how many gas stations, Joe?
Good
How many,
answer, by
how
the
many of
way.
these do you have?
Sorry?
How many of these do you have? How many?
We operate 94 stores.
So you're an expert in the field.
Yeah, a little bit, yep. We do pride ourselves on providing fast, fresh, and friendly service, all the Southern comfort food that we all love. So I think we're going to hold our fair share of the market here.
Good, we
For
can
sure.
incorporate
Do you
that
have-
in the statement as well.
Do your other gas stations fill up the parking?
Oh, yes, yes. So if you look at it this way, this location is probably, I don't have the traffic study in front of me, but we're probably going to generate about 4,000 trips per day. Probably 230, 240 trips during the peak hours, morning and evening. The average stay on our location is probably somewhere between 8 to 10 minutes. And so when you factor all of those things in addition to having two high traffic generating retail uses, or I should say, retail food service uses adjacent to us, that parking area could quickly fill up. And given its location at a prominent corner, I think all of those factors just really contribute to this location needing additional parking, for sure.
You're gonna be busy. Question is, do you have is there a decel lane here?
I'm sorry?
Is there a decel lane going into the,
There's not.
turn
No,
lane?
no.
You might want to look at that, because I live in Barefoot as well, and Danny lives in Barefoot as well, but that traffic will back up. So you might want to take a look at that. And we've added a little bit, you added some more landscaping by moving that parking, which I didn't think of it until you talked about all the traffic, because we get a good bit of traffic there.
Yeah, so you're looking at a decel lane
Off of 17.
Right.
Off of 17 into the driveway on Barefoot Resort Landing?
Oh, yeah, well, is this Barefoot Landing Road,
Yes.
yeah, if right there, you just, anything to get people off of there.
Yeah.
It backs up when the bridge is, during the summertime, it'll back up during the, bridge. We just wanna try to keep people flowing and moving in there, otherwise it gets busy.
Sure. So the traffic impact analysis with South Carolina Department of Transportation and your local.
Yeah, well, just, you all take a look at it, I think staff, we do wanna point that.
Sure.
Cause it backs up both ways depending upon what we're doing here.
Okay.
When it lets out, when it opens, open the bridge up, there's traffic coming down, that thing's closed, but traffic backs up.
Sure. Okay.
I just see it making more of a mess of all the traffic that's there in the summertime. I just see it adding to it on that road where you're gonna turn right to go into Barefoot. If you're coming down 17 going south, you're gonna turn right. I just think that's gonna be a mess there with all that traffic. But, I mean, you all, the city, do you consider that? When you
Our
agree
Public
to
Works
let somebody
Department
build?
does review those traffic plans.
But do you have requirements for widening the roads, or,
Yeah, they
you
got-
know, how are they gonna do this?
Oh, yeah.
They do, but this, once again, is not approved. making a granting or denying a variance request off of a.
So they could put those parking places anywhere they wanted if we gave them to them, or they could take out any green
Driveways may not be
space.
where they're supposed to be, the parking aisles may have to be altered. This is not approved site plan.
Yeah.
Rendering.
I think if we put in the variance, put in the fact that, hey, just take a look at that, just, I'm pointing it out as somebody that lives over there. So,
Because if you added in a decel lane and a variance and DOT.
just want you all to, I don't want to do what what the city does. I just want to just point it out as a thought, as you're talking to them.
Well, DOT's gonna look at that too,
So was
right?
what,
I
right?
mean, they're gonna make you decide whether or not a decel lane's supposed to be there.
Yeah, they can decide. We're not trying to decide that. I'm just recommending it's a good idea for you all and probably a good idea for the traffic as long as you guys factor it in, so.
I guess what I'm thinking is if they say, okay, you've got to put a better lane, a better right turn lane there, you're calling deceleration lane or whatever, are they going to take out some of the landscaping that's in this picture? Would they use that landscaping to take off street?
But they're not restricted, they've got more landscaping that's required.
Perimeter landscaping has.
I'm gonna let the professionals make those
Okay.
decisions. Cause I live back there, and if the DOT and the city thinks they need, you know what I'm saying to you, right?
No, I think it's a mess. I look at Barefoot Resort and it's destroyed the trash. The city approved it, it's a good thing.
Now, that's what DOT, and that's what their job is. I mean, we could, yes.
So is it normal for us to make a decision like this on a plan that has not been approved?
Sure
Is
it
that how
is.
the normal way
Sure
of
it
things
is.
go?
Yeah,
They don't
yeah, many, many times.
Yeah, does planning commission, do they see this first? Is there
They
anything for
won't
them
see
to look
this
at
at
on
all.
this?
This is by right development,
Okay,
except for the parking spaces.
It's already zoned this, right?
Sorry?
It's already zoned for this, right?
It is.
Yeah, if it's zoned for this, then it goes to planning commission. They
Okay.
get to do it. It's already
Okay.
zoned. There's no PDD, it's
because
zoned
it was
for
a
this.
restaurant before, I didn't know if
Yeah.
that made a difference in what it was zoned as. So we can't put any restrictions on where the landscaping goes because this plan hadn't been approved. All we can do is say, yeah, they can have these parking places or they can't.
You can make conditions on landscaping, but like Elton said, the plan that you're looking at may not be the final finished product.
Right. We're gonna let,
If they're approved a variance, part of the approval process will be those additional pervious spaces. But, it makes sense to put them in areas where you could do the whole bank of parking as pervious. So that's probably gonna happen. But yeah, you can make conditions if you want a certain percentage of landscaping, or you want it as per a drawing, or as close to that drawing as possible, going through the approval stages.
I mean, well, there was already a restaurant there, so I see we just put in a restaurant for a restaurant in my eyes, and there was already a huge parking lot there. It's not like this was just a football field, and, I mean, there was a parking, and so,
more cars parking than what,
and there's more, probably, and I think Preston's got a huge parking lot there now, right?
With probably no water quality
none.
things, or ponds, or anything.
Yes, I mean, it's something that's been there, so I mean,
They don't have gas.
And I don't,
They don't have people filling up their cars and squirting gas on the pipe, on the pavement.
I don't want to restrict, I like to let the professionals map this out. I don't want to restrict them. We've added more landscaping by us doing what we did. We've added the ability to have more landscaping. But if the city or DOT want to say, hey, turn lane, no turn lane, yes turn lane, whatever, we'll let them make that. We've added the
And we lose the
landscape.
landscaping.
Yeah,
Which is the
but
only
that's additional landscaping. They're already meeting the requirements. When we moved from a safety standpoint, a traffic on a truck, we moved everybody up here. Makes sense to me.
They still have to meet the city
They gotta-
landscape, green space requirement.
have to
They're still
provide
required to meet that.
Required perimeter landscape.
Yeah.
They may lose some green space that's in the right of way if something like that is deemed required.
Because, I mean, when you drive down Highway 17, we talk about this. You can't make it any wider. All these older buildings are right up to the sidewalk. There's no green space between the road and the buildings.
This is the way we get it, redevelopment.
It's the way it's done, but it's not good. So if, on the new properties we're doing, why can't we make it better and say they should have landscaping between the, perimeter landscaping on the road?
Cynthia, they are.
They are, but what if they take it out?
They're not taking it out.
But
They gotta meet the minimum requirement. What we did was, by us taking the parking and move it to the back, it allowed them to have more. Now, if they, whatever they deem from a decision-making, hey, do we need a turn lane, not turn lane? But actually, I didn't, till Wyman said, hey, there's a restaurant there. They didn't have a turn lane. So right now, we've got more parking. I mean, we've got more landscaping. and then the professionals will figure out how do we,
They still have to have perimeter buffing they still have to have perimeter buffing, landscaping.
Landscape all the way around.
It's still required for the
it's not
project.
there, that's not there now.
It's not there now. They're still, even if they put in a decel lane, they're still required to be perimeter landscaping as their part of the buffer.
Correct.
That would be required.
Well, I'd
Yeah.
just like to see the whole town, which we can't do it now because it's already been ruined, is to have more green space along the streets.
Cynthia,
Along
you're
Highway
getting that,
17.
with them Barkers coming in, you're getting that on that property.
Okay, that's
You
what I
don't
want.
have it right now. You have a sea of
Well,
asphalt.
Myrtle, you and I talked about this a couple weeks ago. It's not too late to make the town pretty. When you drive down 17, you've got all these buildings right on these old buildings. They can't widen 17 anymore. They can't take it away and put trees in. Or bushes or shrubs or anything. You're just driving down 17 and, like those strip malls right there before you get to 17th Avenue South, where Jerry Allen's is. Both sides of that road. It's ugly.
Yeah, but with this being new construction, they're required to have perimeter.
That's what I want.
Yeah, it's
I
there.
want green space alongside the road.
It's required to be there.
Landscaping buffer is what,
10 foot.
And but
unlike other streets in the city. So
Yeah.
there's gotta be a 10-foot.
But the old stuff doesn't. So this is an old property. I think, I want the new stuff.
It will, this will. This has to. This is required to under the new development.
Redevelopment's good for.
Redevelopment's required,
It's a green field. It's a green field, so.
yeah.
Thank you. Oh,
Not only are we putting green,
yeah, that-
shrubbery and plantings
Oh, thank you, sir.
on the perimeter, we're also putting them on.
he's got you got the green space over here. It's pretty,
That'll look 100% better.
that will look a whole lot better.
Thank you. Yeah, we're good, yeah.
They're putting it up.
The color of the building, by the way, white, is that gonna be the color of the building?
It's got a different picture than I do.
Yeah, because,
Brick.
there you go.
The,
See, they're required, even if they did that, same thing,
Nice.
they're still required to have that.
Denibio,
Can't own the,
I
right here?
agree. I'm just saying, if they say, okay, you have to have a new turn lane here, then all that goes. That's my concern.
The turn lane, I think Billy's talking about will be right here, not out here. Right, Billy?
Yeah.
It's not on
I'm thinking
7.
when you go down
It's not on
17, they're gonna make a little lane and you have to
No,
turn.
not there.
He's talking
No,
about
no.
the
The
decel
turn lane
lane.
in.
When you turn in here.
She's trying to explain it right here. The engineer is actually trying to explain it.
ma'am,
Go ahead.
this line right here, you see my pencil, is the existing right-of-way line. So if the traffic study and the DOT were to tell us that we needed a turn lane, we would have to we'd have to adjust the right-of-way line to make, because there's currently, you can see there's a sidewalk, there's only, a few feet right there, there's not room for a lane.
Push the
We
green
push
stuff
the
back.
right-of-way line, we push the buffer line back, everything pushes back.
Okay.
That's due diligence, we're looking to keep the community looking nice, it's like we did with the north end of the town with the painting and the colors of the building, trying to keep them blended so there was some kind of a continuity in the building, that's why I asked for what color was this building gonna be? Because that's important. We've gotta save what we have and build to the future, because we want this to remain that kind of a community for our children to grow up in, our grandchildren. It's very
I
important.
think we should have,
important.
a board.
All right, is anybody prepared to make a motion?
They're complicated.
And you guys are okay with the pervious, as long as the pervious spaces? I don't have any.
You gonna do it?
Yeah, I'll make a
No,
motion.
come
Yeah, unless you want to make
on.
it?
No.
All right. So, Mr. Chairman, I move that the board grant variance V 38-24 because the applicant has demonstrated unnecessary hardship, specifically there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to this particular piece of property, which would be the easement right-of-way that's required in regards to the adjacent property that's grandfathered in with this property. They do have an abnormally larger lot than normal. These conditions do not generally apply to other properties in the vicinity of that piece of property. Because of these conditions, the application ordinance of a particular piece of property would effectively not necessarily prohibit, but could unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. The utilization of the variance would not be a substantial detriment to adjacent properties or to the public good, and the character of the district would not be harmed by granting of the variance. We do ask that in the grants that we keep the perimeter landscaping buffers intact as per required by the city, and also that 18 spaces on the property be pervious for the maximum allowed of 44 parking spots on the property.
And I did have one, and every attempt would make to, with the proprietary system to protect the environment from the runoff.
Yeah.
That,
I would like that, yes.
That's fine.
is that,
Yeah. Do you want me to, you want him to re-say that for you?
Yes, please.
that every effort would made to have a proprietary system to protect the environment from any harmful or hazardous runoff.
And which would be proprietary water system
Yes.
to be included in that motion.
Good deal. Great. Thank you, Mr. Bell. Thank you, Mr. Quinn. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Quinn. We got a second with Mr. Quinn. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Great.
Thank you all very much.
Uh-huh.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can we get make a
Hamlin?
motion to close the
Can
meeting?
I get all your evidence, please?
Make a motion, we close the meeting,
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry
Oh,
Christmas.
that's our wife sent me through the